All right, hello everyone. My name is Julius Austin. I am the Sacramento Promise Zone coordinator for the Sacramento Promise Zone here in Sacramento, California. That was a lot of Sacramentos in a short period of time. But I want to welcome you to this awesome presentation that we have this afternoon. We have a presentation entitled AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps, and that was a little bit hard to say, and so we're going to use the acronym from now on because CNCS calls this program NCCC. It's a lot easier than saying the whole title, but we have some great presenters who are going to be announced and introduced to you by our amazing moderator, Angela. But before I turn it over to Angela, I want to handle a couple of housekeeping items. First, I want to notify you all that the presentation is being recorded, and it will also simultaneously be aired across Facebook Live on the Sacramento Promise Zone Facebook page. The reason why we're doing that is we want to make sure that there's opportunity for as many people to receive this information, but also the recording of the sessions allows everyone to be able to go back and view the information. Sometimes there's a lot of information being presented in the presentation, and it's hard to capture it all real time. And so you can go back to the Sacramento Promise Zone Facebook page to view this presentation and all of the other presentations that have taken place during the National Coalition of Promise Zones 2020 federal convening. So please take advantage of that. We are asking that all participants please remain muted during the presentation. Though you will be muted, there will be great opportunities for you to present questions and make comments in the chat box. Angela will be monitoring the chat box so that she can present the questions and the comments to our presenters. And we'll have some other folks support her just in case. There will be also some time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A session, so you can ask questions there as well. And if for some reason we run out of time, we will capture those questions and present them to the presenters, and they will be able to answer your questions at a later time. So with all that being stated, I would like to get us started by turning this over to our awesome moderator, Angela Hong, who is one of our community liaisons with HUD down in our SoCal Promise Zones. All right, Angela, take it away.
Thank you, Julius. Good morning and afternoon for some, and thank you for joining us. I like to think we saved the best for last today, and I'd like to welcome you all to this session featuring the Corporation for National Community Service. As Promise Zone communities or even Envision centers, I see some folks from Envision centers here in the session. Many of you are familiar with CNCS and the AmeriCorps VISTA program, so you know just how critical and incredible VISTA members are. And so today we'll be highlighting another amazing CNCS program, the NCCC program. After this session, we hope you'll consider bringing an NCCC member to your community. But first, let me introduce you to our presenters today, Amanda Cochran and Katie Keene. Amanda is the Assistant Program Director at the NCCC Pacific Region for Idaho, Nevada, and Southern California. She's been with NCCC for 5 years and has deep roots with the AmeriCorps program. Prior to NCCC, she served as an AmeriCorps VISTA with Serve Wyoming and Laramie, Wyoming, and also as a VISTA leader in San Diego with the International Rescue Mission. Katie is the Assistant Program Director at NCCC Pacific Region for Alaska, Oregon, and Washington. She started with NCCC in 2016, but she's been a part of the AmeriCorps family since 2012, serving in both the NCCC and the AmeriCorps state and national programs. So as you can tell, just both from their experience, both Katie and Amanda are a wealth of knowledge, so please take advantage of the time you have with them today and ask questions. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to Amanda and Katie.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that introduction. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on your coast. My name is Katie Keene, and yes, Amanda and I are extremely excited and thankful to be here with you all today. What a great turnout. So hopefully we are able to have some great discussion afterwards with any questions you might have. We did want to make sure to add that there are two other people part of our team that are not on the call today. James Griffin, who the Sacramento folks might know, he covers Northern California, Utah, Hawaii, and Montana. And then our Deputy Director for Programming, Tanya Gibson-Nauman, who directs us in making sure that we are providing the best service products we can to you all out there. So they wish they could be here, but Amanda and I have a lot of experience as well to be able to share with you all and hopefully answer any questions you have, even if we don't represent the states that you all are joining us from. And then I'll hand it on over to Amanda.
Great, thanks, Katie. And thank you, Angela, for the introduction. As Angela said, we are assistant program directors for the Pacific region. I've had some great conversations with some of our Promise Zones out of the Pacific region, specifically San Diego Promise Zone. So we've been in conversation about potential NCCC projects. So I hope that will continue and that we inspire all of you to consider NCCC to support each of your different Promise Zones. So we'll be going over a few things today. We'll talk through what is NCCC. As we mentioned, NCCC stands for National Civilian Community Corps, but of course that's a mouthful, so we like to just call it NCCC. We'll be talking about some example service projects just to kind of inspire you of what you might be able to do in your community. We'll talk about who our NCCC members are, what they look like, where they're from, what their experiences are, what do we provide for our sponsors, and then what do we ask our sponsors to provide. All right, so just to give you kind of a visual in terms of our structure. So Corporation for National and Community Service is our overarching agency. We have a couple branches that come off of CNCS, one being Senior Corps, and there are 3 programs within Senior Corps. There's the RSVP program, the Foster Grandparents program, and the Senior Companion program. All 3 of those work with populations that are over 55, and they kind of focus on different areas based on whether it's working with youth, working with other seniors, or various community needs where our seniors can contribute. So that is kind of one arm of things. And then AmeriCorps is the other arm within CNCS. And as you can see, there are some different branches that come off of that. So state and national does a lot of different things based on organizations that are both in a state or run nationally. So they get grants to manage AmeriCorps programming, both regionally and locally. I think a lot of you are familiar with the AmeriCorps Vista program. I know a lot of AmeriCorps Vistas are located in Promise Zones and really engage with Promise Zones and make things possible. And as Angela mentioned in her introduction of us, I actually served as an AmeriCorps Vista and definitely believe in that program, definitely impacted me, and I felt like impacted the communities where I got to serve. And as you know, Vistas tend to be a little more behind the scenes, capacity building, really more behind the scenes. NCCC is definitely boots on the ground. So our members serve as a team, which is also different from Vista, where they serve as individuals. It's direct service, so they are getting things done, a little less of the capacity building end that is Vista, and it's short term. So there are project lengths between 6 weeks and 12 weeks instead of the year that is a Vista program. We like to say that NCCC is kind of like an appetizer into the AmeriCorps world. You get to have a little taste test of a team for a few weeks, whereas Vista, you're committing to a full entree. You have a member for a full year. So those are some of the differences with NCCC and with Vista. So with AmeriCorps and CCC, our mission is to strengthen communities and develop leaders through team-based national and community service. So we have kind of these two different focuses, two arms, where we're both working to engage our teams and members to gain skills so that they can move forward in their careers and their opportunities. We're also wanting to strengthen the communities where they are serving. So engage with local agencies and really strengthen those communities where they're working. So this is a residential team-based direct service program that provides full-time opportunities for our young adults to serve their country and help communities meet compelling needs. So the teams get to live where they're working, so they're engaged in different communities in our region. So we'll be talking about the different regions, but basically within our region, our teams have an opportunity to serve in multiple areas with multiple projects and get to impact those specific communities. And here is our map. So as you can see, we actually have 4 different regions. We are from the Pacific region out of Sacramento, and we cover 9 states in the West. And there are 3 other regions. I know you guys are calling in from various places, so you'll be able to see on your map the region that covers your promise zone and your state. These don't align perfectly with the HUD regions, so just to note, just for your awareness. So Pacific region, I know the California HUD region doesn't align perfectly with what we have, but there's a contact in each of those regions for you guys to connect with. And we have, you know, the same program, very similar processes, just mostly just different timelines that we work in. So in terms of types of projects that we serve in, there really are a huge variety of work that we do. So we could have teams doing disaster work. Obviously, there's a lot of potential disaster efforts that our teams can respond to. Is fires not in Sacramento, but in California right now, that our teams may be responding to and supporting. So it could be recovery and response work. It could also be preparedness and helping communities get prepared in times of disaster. With COVID happening, we also have some projects that are directly related to COVID response. So we have a project that we've been working on more recently called the Social Bridging Project, in which our members are connecting with California residents, especially seniors, to do wellness checks and make sure that they have the resources they need, being isolated from what their typical schedule might be. And also communicating with adults across California to make sure they have disaster resources to be prepared in a time of disaster. So that's a remote project that we've been doing during this time of COVID, but we do a whole variety of other types of work. So infrastructure improvement is one area where we might have teams that are building houses, helping with various improvements for an organization. We do tax projects, food distribution, be it, you know, working with community gardens or local food banks to help just provide additional hands for that kind of effort. We do work with different schools or organizations that specifically mentor youth or work with youth, where our teams can engage and just be more friendly faces to connect with youth in that way. We also do conservation efforts, be it land or water. Again, boots on the ground, getting those kind of things done is a super effective way to use a team. Really, our projects can provide a lot of variety to both engage a community in a multitude of ways and be able to create that impact, and also give variety to the team to be able to build a set of skills on their end. So one project that I wanted to mention was a project that we've been working with in Riverside County in Southern California. And there's various partners that are involved in this project. So all of them get to work with one team, and the team gets to work with a multitude of agencies, be it You know, certain days of the week they're doing conservation efforts. Certain days they are helping with a veteran population, and then, you know, at a certain point are doing the homeless count. So different ways that they can engage with the community during a set period of time. Gives the team so many opportunities to do a variety of things and really impacts the community in a stronger way. And I think we'll jump back one slide, Katie, to talk about project sponsors real quick. So there's a variety of different organizations that can apply for a team. So we have nonprofits that apply, faith-based organizations. So you see the photo there. Habitat for Humanity is a faith-based organization that we work with. Various governmental organizations. So of course, HUD is a federal organization. We also work with national parks and other federal agencies like Bureau of Land Management, various state agencies, local government also. We definitely do a lot with the different cities. We've had projects with the city of Las Vegas to help with the homelessness efforts there. We also work with, and I mentioned this before, different education organizations, so public schools, colleges, and universities. At this time, I know there's various projects that are looking to partner with universities to provide housing for our teams, just because not all of those dorm rooms are being used currently. And then we also work with tribal councils and Native organizations. So we've had some successful projects with the Nez Perce tribe in Idaho in doing various support efforts around that tribal community, including working with the community garden, doing infrastructure improvements and painting around the tribal community, and supporting elders in stacking wood. It can be a whole host of different projects that we've had teams do in that area. And then these are the 5 different areas of service in which we do project work. So I mentioned before some examples of projects, one of which I talked about disasters. So we definitely have teams supporting disaster efforts. As I mentioned, that can be pre-disaster and doing preparedness. We work with Red Cross sometimes in that way to share preparedness messages with communities and with organizations. It can also be after the fact in responding to the disasters, doing recovery. We've been working in Northern California for a while with the fires over the past however many years to do recovery by building homes in communities where a lot of homes have been lost. Environmental stewardship and conservation is another big area. So I've mentioned like the Bureau of Land Management and some different conservation agencies. We have great partnerships with them, and we've had teams go out, again, boots on the ground, right? Picturing a team getting dirty, building a trail, engaging in water conservation. There's a whole host of projects that we do in that area. Infrastructure improvement, I've also mentioned in terms of building things or improving on whatever infrastructure an organization needs to have improved. We have a project in rural Nevada in which we had a team go out and do like basically creating pavers for a parking lot, doing some painting, really improving the beautification of the space where the organization was seeing clients. Energy conservation is an area that we don't do a whole lot of. We've had a couple of projects in the past, but that tends to be an area where for-profit companies do a lot of energy conservation. So obviously they aren't able to apply for a team, but that's an area we are looking to do more work in. So if you have any ideas there, please let us know. And then urban and rural development is kind of the catch-all area. So anything that wasn't really covered in the other components or areas of service is covered in urban and rural development. So that could be tax projects, it could be mentorship of youth, it's food security issues. Those kind of things are all really covered in urban and rural development. And we'll go to the next slide. So who are the young adults that serve in AmeriCorps NCCC? So we have really two different types of members that are part of each of our teams. So, we have these teams of between 8 to 12 people on a team, and then our core members make up the majority of those teams. So all core members need to be between 18 and 26. They apply nationally and they come from all over the US. So they, apply online, they get placed in a certain regional campus, and then they come to our campus. We actually have members here now in Sacramento that are going through training. And once they arrive, especially right now, we want to make sure that they're safe. So we get them COVID tested from the start. They go through 14 days of self-isolation, and then they are safely ready to deploy out onto projects from there. So our members have very diverse backgrounds, skill sets, abilities, interests. They're coming from all over the country. They have all kinds of different experiences that they're coming from. And we typically see that out of all of our members, maybe about a third are recent high school graduates, a third have some college experience, and a third are recent college graduates. One thing I think we're noticing right now with COVID, people may not be wanting to go to college right now because it is all remote, or they might have had some really great experience and are coming back to do something that is really impactful to their community. So I feel like we're seeing maybe a little bit of differences in that breakdown. We have some really impressive team leaders, which I'll be describing to you shortly who they are in their role on the team. But we have some team leaders that are coming from really impressive backgrounds just because, some things are closed down right now, or there's not as much other opportunities, and NCCC is a really good option for them. But our members, ultimately, a lot of them are unskilled. So they, because they're coming from high school or from college, they maybe haven't really had a job before, and this is an opportunity for them to gain some skills so that they can move forward in their career and kind of figure out what they want to do next, which is, I think, another difference between NCCC and the VISTA program. Our members in NCCC want to kind of taste test what options are out there and try to help identify what their interests are and what they might want to do for a career in the future. I will highlight that a background check is completed for each of our members. That's part of the process when they go through the application. So just like VISTA, there are some similar benefits in terms of the education award. So our NCCC members get that $6,195 after successfully completing the program. And this is 1,700 hours of service that's expected of them. That accounts to about between 40 and 45 hours a week because our service term is about 10 months long. So we do ask that our organizations, our sponsors, keep our teams engaged at least 40 hours a week so they can successfully complete the program and get that Ed Award. They do get a weekly living allowance just to help pay whatever kind of necessary bills they might have. They get about $100 a week for that. And we provide quite a bit to them. So they do have food, housing, some limited health care, travel, and uniforms all provided to them from us. So housing on campus here in Sacramento, they get that from us. And then when they're out on project, housing is also provided to them from the sponsor, which we will be talking about shortly. They also get plenty of leadership and skill training and development. So they're actually currently going through training here in Sacramento. There's about 3 weeks of training, and a lot of that is centered around leadership development, how to work together on a team, and how to support one another while on project. So a little bit more about that training. So it is 3 weeks long. They're about in the middle of it now, at least this current group. And they go through some training on programmatic policies and expectations, introduction to service learning. And service learning is a really big component of our program. It's kind of the intersection of not just doing work on the ground without thinking about the impact of it, but remembering the importance of why they are doing the work that they're doing. So it provides an opportunity for members to reflect on the impact that they're making in local communities. So we do train them on service learning and help them start thinking about how that might impact their service year. We talk a lot about team building, as I mentioned. So they're together as a team for the full 10 months, sticking together, traveling together. We provide a 15-passenger van in which our teams are traveling to Montana and then to Southern California. And it really provides a space for some great team building in that kind of environment. We also train them on diversity and conflict resolution, just helping them think through this opportunity to be together as a team and also to engage with really diverse communities. So you see the picture there working with a Yakama Nation. That would be very different than maybe a community like working in inner city LA or working in remote Idaho. So they get a lot of different experiences, and we really want them during their training to start thinking about what that might look like with their experiences. We also have a team leader on each team. So they work alongside the team, they live with the team, and they supervise the team. So they provide the administrative responsibilities and logistics. They're kind of the main point of contact between the team and any sponsoring organization. They do have various paperwork that they are responsible for, including a weekly progress report and a project completion report. And both of those things track quantifiables of a project so that the organization can also get that information. They're not responsible for writing all of that up. It's the team leader that's going to be tracking all of that information. They are overall the accountability person for the team. So they make sure the team is where they're supposed to be at a specific time and that they're being safe. They also are responsible for managing personnel and behavioral issues on the team. So as the sponsor, that's not something that you need to be doing. That's something that the team leader is fully responsible for. The team leader also has staff back here on campus to report to with any of those kind of concerns. So they do have a built-in system for them to get support and guidance as needed. And I mentioned the various reporting efforts that we manage, and that is something that the team leader really does in conjunction with the sponsor in terms of like conversations, making sure that they're reporting things accurately, that they're on the same page with all that information. And I think it is now Katie's turn.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. All right, so Amanda has told you about these incredible teams, who they are, where they're coming from, and their background. And so by now you're probably like, yes, I definitely want one of these teams. They sound amazing. So how do you go about applying to host one of them? So when it comes to hosting, there's a few things we like you all to know when it comes to the project length and when you'll actually receive the team. So specifically for our side of the country, the Pacific and Southwest regions, you'll typically start having teams deploy around the September-October timeframe, and then they serve their 10 months until July, August area. And I know there's a lot of folks on the call that are coming from the East Coast and then the Midwest, and so your campuses in North Central region and the Southern region, they usually come online to start doing project work in February and then serve until November. So at any given time, there's going to be AmeriCorps members available around the country. Just depending on specifically your state and where your region is, might differentiate if they're available in December and January, basically. So projects, like Amanda said, can be anywhere between 6 and 13 weeks. We know that 13 weeks is a pretty long time to ask a sponsor to have a team especially when we're asking for those 40-hour work weeks. And so you can apply for a project and just be specific about how long you actually want the team to be there. We do have projects that are only 2 weeks long. And so if you're really just trying to see if AmeriCorps and CCC works for you, you can apply for 2 weeks. We do encourage you all, though, to look into your community, which shouldn't be too hard with Promise Zones, right, with all the different organizations you all work with, but kind of piecing everybody together to maybe make a longer project. So one person can put in an application, but then within that application, there can be many organizations that the team works with. You propose a length of time, and we just try to make it fit within one of our project rounds. Our jobs as assistant program directors is not to tell you what you need or what we want. We want to make sure that we are making it fit for you and what your community needs at the time. So a little bit deeper dive into the components. We've said it a few times now that there's a minimum of 40 hours of work for the members. And this 40 hours should be meaningful service. So making sure that the team members are understanding the purpose behind why they're doing the work that they're doing. Now we know that even as full-time employees, sometimes we struggle to find an hour or two a day where we might be finishing up a project and going into the next one, so there's some delay time, and that's understandable. But we just want to make sure that the schedule that you create for the team is pretty robust. We like to tell sponsors to throw the kitchen sink at the application. Every little thing you think the teams might get to should be in there. And I want to say this too, these are 18 and 26-year-olds who have been sitting in PowerPoints for 3 weeks on our campus. And so by the time they get out to do their work, they are ready to go. So what you think might last a week of work, they'll probably get done in 2 to 3 days. They're pretty incredible in that way. So they're go-getters for sure. And so really looking to what your wish list has been for many years. Is it organizing these files? Is it getting this room cleaned out to become an office or space for trainings to take place? All those things that can happen, think through it, and the members will get it done within hours, I promise you. So we've kind of limited our team sizes to around 8 to 9 members at this time due to COVID. We want to make sure that in certain states, there's been policy put into place that there shouldn't be more than 10 people living together and things like that. So we're trying to create a smaller family unit within the teams. The project should address the compelling community needs. So not only what your organization needs at the time, but how does that span out into the community and support what their needs are at the time as well. That detailed work plan to help us see that you are able to find those 40 hours of meaningful work. And that should include inclement weather. Definitely across the country, I know we all see very random weather each day. I know last year, Oregon and Washington got a pretty big snowstorm that kept our members at home for a few days because of the roads being closed. Some things we can plan for and some things we can't, but we just like to have a little bit in there to say, hey, if it's a lot of outdoor work, what can they do if they come indoors? Is there a partner nearby, like a food bank or something like that, that you can send the team to support for the day when there might be some heavy rainfall? And then that last thing is service learning and professional development opportunities. I will say one of the biggest difference between our members and VISTA members are that VISTA members apply specifically for an organization and understand what the project work is going to look like. Our members are kind of prototyping what their passions are when it comes to this year, and they don't get to choose the projects they go on. And so for some of them, they might not necessarily understand why it's important to do the work that you're asking them to do. So that service learning component from you all as a project sponsor is pretty important. And then there's professional development opportunities. So knowing that there is an ability for them to learn how to work with different organizations that they might be able to use on their resume moving forward. So what do we provide? Well, we provide a good amount of things. We would provide these beautiful 15-passenger vans. Along with those 15-passenger vans are about 4 to 5 people who can drive. So I saw briefly somebody in the chat talking about a driving type project. Our members can drive vehicles from the sponsor. It has to be approved through a sponsor agreement. And then only those 4 to 5 members who've been trained through NCCC can actually drive vehicles from the sponsor as well. So they just need to go through our training to be able to do that. These 15 passenger vans take them all across the country, and we provide the gas for that as well. Members receive a food and laundry budget, so sponsors are not responsible for feeding the team, although it does help if there's a potluck every once in a while. They love to eat and will gladly take any pizza parties you send their way. And then laundry as well. So if there's no washer or dryer in the housing, then we provide money for them to do laundry per week. Limited hand tools if needed. I will say our hand tools aren't brand new every year, and so they've been loved over the last few years. And we're actually limiting the amount of tools we provide this year due to COVID. We're trying to limit our teams coming back to campus right now, so the less we put in their vans, the better, and the more comfortable and safe for them along their road trip. Members receive personal protective equipment. This is for the hard hats, ear pro, eye pro, things like that. They come with worker comp coverage. And then like what Amanda talked about, all of our members are tested upon arrival. And if they test positive, then we have them quarantined for 14 days until they're no longer showing symptoms. And then we do have the background check also provided. So the role of the project sponsor is giving those members an orientation and training when they arrive. Like Amanda mentioned, our members are coming from different backgrounds and skill sets. And so, our initial training is more on the soft skill side of conflict resolution and team building. But we don't have the time to train them on all the different tools they might be using, all the different different types of programmings that you might have different training for. And so their first few days, we just ask that you give them a great orientation of the community, the organization, and then ongoing training throughout their project time with you. Ongoing technical supervision, so making sure that there's somebody on site with the team, especially if it's a pretty difficult task that they're doing, construction, if there's a type of planting that needs to be done a specific way. The supervisor doesn't need to be there for the full 8 hours a day, but at least there at the beginning and some throughout to make sure that the members are doing things properly. We do ask that sponsors provide a majority of the tools and materials. We can sometimes help as assistant program directors to partner you with other organizations nearby if that's something that is hard to come by for you. And then the last one, the big one, is housing. So this is really the big ask for NCCC for you as a sponsor. Housing, we know, especially in certain cities, is already difficult for community members. So it can be hard to find for, 6 to 13 weeks for a group of members to come through as well. But this is something that, we can get a little creative with. So housing doesn't have to be necessarily a house. Okay, we've had members stay in churches, yurts. We've had members camp for a few weeks, Airbnbs, community centers, even offices. The big thing is just having a kitchen and a plate and access to showers and bathrooms. Those three things don't necessarily have to be in the same place. Members are used to driving 10 to 15 minutes to get to showers if they need them at a local YMCA or something like that. Maybe you only have the ability to have them housed at a church for 3 weeks and then need to move them for the rest of the project. That is okay as well. We just ask that you provide cleaning supplies for them when it comes to the housing so they can make sure that they leave it better than they came to. I will say right now with COVID, our guidelines for housing have become a little bit more strict. making sure that members are able to sleep 6 feet apart from each other. That can be head to toe kind of thing, sleeping kind of diagonal from one another. And then having a space if a member does start to show symptoms for them to self-isolate. So we know that that kind of causes another layer to things. We are also figuring it out as we've learning how to be flexible during this time. And so, you know, if you think you have a housing option and you want to talk it through, if that works through the guidelines and things like that, then that's what Amanda and myself and people in our role are available to talk through. So the application process, you've heard all of this, you feel like you know that ICCC sounds like a good option for you in your promise zone. So what do you do next? How do you move forward? So the first thing you would do is to submit a project concept form, a PCF, as we like to abbreviate in our world. And this is a short 4-page document that basically tells us who you are, what the need is in your community or with your organization, and a short description of what the project work looks like. This is kind of our way to see if ICCC actually would be a good fit for you all before asking you to do the full application. Kind of saves you time and a headache or heartache if that happens. Once you receive your concept form and review it, we'll notify you if you have been invited to submit the full application. The full application is about 20 pages long and goes a little bit more in depth about the project detail, what servicing opportunities are available to the members, any member development, things like that. Once you submit the full application to the campus, we will review it and notify you if it's been approved and eligible for a team assignment. From start to finish, this process can take about 3 to 4 months. So we understand that when you put in the concept form or the application, things may change, and that's okay. The assistant program directors are here to guide you throughout the entire process and support any changes that may happen along the way. So in summary, ICCC project is an exciting way to accomplish a large amount of work for your organization in a short period of time. And I will say that is so true. Our members, like I said earlier, get done so much in a very short period. They're excited to be a part of your organization for that time in your community. And I promise you they'll be very sad to leave when the time comes. We've seen a great effort in raising community spirits with our teams coming in. Nothing really starts a community than a van of young adults piling out of it, ready to work and support their needs. It's a really great burst of energy that comes along with this group. And this is a great time to tackle that backlog of projects on your wish list. Like I talked about before, throwing the kitchen sink, throwing everything at this team. They will do it with smiles on their faces. We want to make sure that you are successful with these projects when it comes to hosting one of our teams. We can provide a huge amount of variety when it comes to the different skill sets that they might bring along with and things like that. And just really assessing and supporting the needs of the promise zones. We're excited to support that and hope that our teams can be able to help that with you. So we want to get it done together. HUD has been an incredible partnership for ICCC. We've really enjoyed doing these presentations with you all to share this great opportunity that a lot of people don't know about, sadly enough, but we're getting the word out there, and that's what's important. Don't hesitate to contact us as your assistant program director to begin your project plans. Right now, I just have our Pacific region contact information. It's our general email, and then the Southwest. But the Southern and North Central are similar format. So I can put those in the chat for you all as well if you're calling in from those regions. But yeah, we are excited to get started. And I just want to put a little plug. That's me and my team in Las Vegas. We did a playground build with Kaboom. So we really can do everything, and it's always really fun. So with that, Amanda, if you have anything that you want to add, but that concludes our presentation, and we can start taking questions.
Yeah, I think we can definitely open it up for questions. Angela, if you want to take it from here, we're happy to answer.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Amanda. And so I'm hoping everyone's pumped up to apply for an NCCC member. We do have some questions here from our participants. The first one here comes from Judy Shanley. Does NCCC actively recruit members with disabilities?
Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
great.
Yeah,
Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Amanda. No, you're okay. That is a great question, Judy. We do recruit members with disabilities, as well as doing a lot of project work with camps like Easter Seals, actually here in California, to also work with that community. I will say some of the project work can be difficult depending on the specific member. However, we ask all of our sponsors in the full application to talk through what kind of project work can be done with members who are coming from different backgrounds. So that way, when we are putting a team or assigning a team to a certain project, if there's a member on that team that comes with a certain disability, that maybe the sponsor noted that this wasn't the greatest project work for a person in that space, then we know to move on to a different project. But yes, long answer long, we do actively recruit members with disabilities.
Thank you. These next two questions are more about the types of projects NCCC members can do. And so the first one is, do NCCC members provide any COVID-19 testing or contact tracing services? And the second one is, can NCCC projects focus on transportation? And so some folks through Senior Corps can support volunteer driver programs. Could NCCC members do that?
Yeah, great questions. I'll answer the COVID one first. We have a project actually out of Colorado in terms of contact tracing. So we have partnered with the state of Colorado, and this is the Southwest region actually that is focusing on this project. But we would definitely be interested if you have a project related to contact tracing or any other COVID related maybe response idea that you'd like our teams to support. That's definitely something we would be interested in doing. In terms of the transportation question, I think Katie touched on this a little bit with the 15 passenger vans and our members' abilities to drive. So as she said, about 4 to 5 members of every team are able to drive those 15 passenger vans. We actually go through a full training and certification of our drivers. So if it were a transportation type project, that's possible, especially if the organization in the sponsor agreement says that members are able to drive those sponsor vehicles. That is a possibility for sure.
Great. So this next question is more around the application requirements. And I know each region kind of has their own application dates. And so is there a specific application due date, or are apps accepted on an ongoing basis? And I'll add to that to also ask, how long is that turnaround period from when someone, a sponsoring agency is interested in applying for NCCC and actually getting the NCCC members?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Angela. So there are specific application due dates. They happen about 3 to 4 times throughout the year, depending on the region that you're applying to. Those due dates for the application are about 3 to 4 months prior to the members actually arriving on site. So it is kind of a lengthy process, and sometimes it's hard to know what the future is going to look like when it comes to, especially right now in COVID times, but also just things change so quickly. But that's, the assistant program directors have an ongoing communication with the project sponsors to let you know where you are along the application process, so you can prepare for when you're actually going to get the team to arrive. You'll actually learn which team is arriving to you about a month out from them coming, and then 2 to 3 weeks prior to them arriving, you'll meet the team leader and start having ongoing communication with them before they come on site as well. If you're in the Pacific region, we have what's called a request for applications one-pager, and that gives all the due dates for our rounds throughout the year. And the other regions as well have a similar document that they can share, so you can kind of see when the applications begins.
Thank you, Katie. And I think it might be helpful to, if we can maybe gather all those one-pagers and maybe share it with Julius and have him potentially just share it with all of the participants in this convening.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
So that was the last question. Are there any other questions while you have both Amanda and Katie here? So you have the contact information. Please reach out to NCCC if you're interested in applying, whether you're a Promise Zone community or an Envision Center community. I think we've seen the benefits and just the advantages of having a VISTA member with the Promise Zones and now with Envision Centers. And so imagine all the things you can do with an NCCC member. Wanted to thank Amanda and Katie for a wonderful and very informative presentation. With that, I think I'll pass it back to Julius to close us out.
All right, thank you so much, Angela. I really want to extend thanks to you for moderating. You did such a great job. Definitely want to thank our presenters, Amanda and Katie. You did a wonderful job. Thank you for letting folks know about the great opportunity to use NCCC to do some really helpful and useful projects. We will continue to try to share out this information so that Promise Zones and Promise Zone partners and their networks can be more aware of NCCC. And that will be done by, as I mentioned in the chat, you can view the recording of this presentation and also the recording of all of the presentations that have taken place during the National Coalition of Promise Zones 2020 Federal Convening at the Sacramento Promise Zone Facebook page. I put the address there in the chat box, or you can simply search for Sacramento Promise Zone on Facebook to find it. If you do not use Facebook and you would like to request the recording, you can reach out directly to me at my email, which is jaustin@shra.org. Once again, that's jaustin@shra.org. We would love to forward the recording information to you. You have attended this presentation, and we're grateful for that. But we have the 3 final presentations of the convening happening tomorrow. We would love for you to attend. And some of you may be a little alarmed that I said 3 instead of 2, because we have a special addition. There's been a new presentation added to the lineup for tomorrow from the Department of Education. So that will be sandwiched in between the presentations from the EDA, Economic Development Agency, and the Department of Justice. We have a U.S. Attorney's Office representatives doing the presentation as well. And so there's going to be some great topics. So please share with your networks that those presentations are taking place, and we hope to see you tomorrow. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us. We hope that you have an enjoyable remainder of your day.